In this video, we will explore the evolution of consciousness and by extension the metaverse and get a sense of how close we are to Judgment Day. And the evolution of the human species has been intimately linked to the adaptive advantages of tool use. Tool use has been imminent in the rise and fall of civilizations, and in some cases reached extinction, where we as a species have forgotten how we use technology in the first place. In the current iteration of technological evolution, we invented the internet in 1983. And since then, the internet has been going through a stage of infancy, and only now do we see that the moving parts of the Internet of Things is mature enough for us to do what we had imagined half a century ago. So the question must be asked, why have we co-evolved with technology rather than nature? We invented tools for the adaptive needs of our survival, yet we now find ourselves at the mercy of the very tools that we have invented. The introduction of the metaverse alongside global unrest has thrown people off balance, and we now find ourselves at an inflection point, a nexus between what is biological and what is digital, and all of this is happening at a time when humans are becoming more artificial and machine more intelligent. As a species, when we are caught up in the day-to-day existence trying to make ends meet, we fail to contemplate the very real existential threat that we may not be biologically prepared for. For the first time in recorded history, we find that there is a separation between intelligence and consciousness. The optimistic descendants of the great apes may be the last generation of truly biological Homo sapiens. Hybrid cognition is a stepping stone towards biological inequality. Instead of simply harvesting behavioral data such as the analysis of preferences by social media platforms, AI can now biohack human beings by looking at biometric data, which is now available through the explosion of the wearable tech industry. As a neuroscientist, I led my team at the University of Sydney to develop an end-to-end AI infrastructure for the diagnosis of disease progression in multiple sclerosis. And we deployed this across 135 clinics in 38 different countries. And the technology that we developed is able to generate a medical report on the most complex organ in the human body. And this is done within seconds with far greater accuracy than a neurologist who has 35 years of experience. And this is despite the fact that neurology is one of the highest paid professions in the medical industry. So you must face the fact that technology is evolving faster than our prehistoric brain. We're heading headfirst towards brain-machine interfaces, but we're yet to develop a healthy relationship between the brain-body interface. The brain is a primordial filter of consciousness, but does not generate consciousness itself. The distinction between consciousness and intelligence is that AI does not breathe, and herein lies the paradox of moral reasoning. Throughout the endeavors of scientific discovery, we have stripped the universe of feeling and talked about it only in the manner of quantitative properties. And this has led science to exclude consciousness by design. As a man of science, I've deliberately avoided talking about consciousness for this reason, but it hasn't prevented me from writing about it. When I wrote my book Hidden World, I did so while living inside a cave devoid of mental clutter so that I could contemplate consciousness. And for this reason, the hidden world is borderline fantasy, blurring the lines between what is real and what is imagined, because sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. And as a neuroscientist, I often get asked about the nature of consciousness as if we have some form of divine insight on the subject matter. But the truth is we couldn't be further from the truth, because as scientists we often overthink consciousness and have convoluted explanations that sound impressive but rarely are. If I asked you, did you dream last night? If the answer is yes, how can you prove it to me? Sure, we can use surface brain activity and monitor it during rapid eye movement sleep, but I'll never be able to experience your dream as vividly as you did. And every explanation of consciousness is challenged by this very basic predicament, at least up until now. So allow me to take back what I said before. Did you dream last night? If the answer is yes, can you show it to me in the metaverse? virtual reality is not only able to mimic your imagination, but it is able to make it far more immersive. The possibility of experiencing everything that you ever dreamt of is an alluring one. What happens when everything that you want comes to life in an extraordinary way? What happens to the ordinary when you're conditioned to be stimulated by the hyperordinary? What happens when the digital and real world is bridged by augmented reality? What happens when an avatar is replacing the very connection that you have with your own body? Regardless of what your avatar looks like, the question remains, are you loved by the person you face in the mirror? When you look at yourself in the mirror in VR, you will see nothing unless you see yourself as an avatar. Evolutionarily speaking, the development of the cerebral cortices is overpowered, far more than necessary for survival in nature. And without nature providing a challenge for our survival, the human species became fundamentally flawed. Fear began to preoccupy the mind and invent imaginary challenges to drive away real ones, and fear became a biological lie. The moment we began to believe in a biological lie, the evolution of humankind was hijacked by the human mind, and we lost touch with this body and therefore with nature. The body has an intelligence that no AI can compete with, yet without access to this intelligence, we began to seek outside ourselves, a desperate cry for answers from a guru, a government, or God. If you want to know more about what I mean by the intelligence of the body, you can watch my talk on the cost of captivity linked here. So why did the human species co-evolve with technology rather than with nature? Perhaps because we couldn't find the answers that we're looking for, so we invented one and called it innovation. Yet the answers to the most important questions in your life never come from somewhere outside. For that, you have to listen to your heart.